Welcome operators, my name is Jorge Acuña, and in this video you'll be learning about skid steers. So the following requirements are based on your EHS safety manual and the equipment manual for that piece of equipment. As the operator for that piece of equipment, it is your responsibility to read the operator's manual for it. In the following video, you'll be learning about how to properly communicate during your THA the hazards associated with this piece of equipment. You'll be learning about the pre-use inspection of the piece of equipment. You'll be learning about all of its functions, the operation of the piece of equipment, and finally the parking and the shutting down of the engine.
We start our day with our daily THA meeting. This is when an operator communicates the dangers that all employees have to watch out for around the piece of equipment. Designate a signal person if it is needed. Talk about existing utilities in the area where the machine is being operated and the process of the operator and other employees involved with the task of the day. Now we are starting our pre-use inspection. Starting at the front, we're checking that the bucket is in good condition and that the steps to get into the cab are in good condition as well. You want to inspect the quick connection fittings. Look at the tread of the tracks or the tires on the skid steer. Keep them clean so that you can scope out any deficiencies and make sure that they're greased. Inspect the bucket arms to make sure that there are no missing components, leaks, and that they're being greased. The cab must remain clean. This also helps with the entry and exit into the machine. Always look for the labels for emergency exits on that equipment. Inside the cab, you want to adjust your mirrors. You want to make sure all the buttons are legible, and you want to make sure that there is an operator's manual for that piece of equipment. If there are any maintenance warnings, please make sure to write those down. Again, for any buttons or functions in the piece of equipment, you want to make sure that they're legible, that they function, and that everything works accordingly before you start using that piece of equipment. You always want to look and make sure that any exterior lights work and function accordingly. Depending on what time of the day you're operating that piece of equipment, it can be an issue. Anything that you find that might need correction or maintenance, you write down on your inspection book. You want to make sure that the parking brake can engage and disengage on the equipment and that it functions accordingly. Checking the engine compartment is very important to the maintenance of the equipment. You want to make sure that any radiators and coolant hoses aren't leaking. You want to make sure that there's enough coolant on that piece of equipment, that way it doesn't overheat. Check the fans. You want to make sure that there's a master key inside that piece of equipment, and check the battery for any leaks and any damage. You want to check the air filters in them, make sure that they're getting cleaned out and that the oil is being checked for the oil level to be. Now that the machine is ready to be turned on and you are sitting in the seat of the cab, you always want to make sure the first thing you do is put on your seatbelt. Right before starting to operate the piece of equipment, you want to turn it on and you want to make sure that any attachment for that equipment is secured and locked. Now what we're going to do is we're going to check and make sure that the backup alarm works on that piece of equipment. If it doesn't, we shouldn't operate the piece of equipment unless we have spotters available at all times while that equipment is moving. And always make sure that the horn works on the equipment just in case of an emergency. After you finish operating that piece of equipment and it's ready to shut it down, you want to make sure you park it in a flat, even surface, and you want to make sure that you engage the parking brake before you leave that piece of equipment.
For the conclusion of the inspection, we have our inspection book here. We put down all the information, the type of equipment, the date of the inspection, the hours, project number, the equipment number if it has one. As we go down the list, we realized that there was an indicator that said that there needed to be an oil change, so we're writing that down. We keep going down, everything checked out fine. The other thing that we found was that there was a fire extinguisher missing, so we marked that. In the comments, we just put that there's a missing beacon light, just in case the project requires one. We noted that down, that it's missing one. We noted down that it needs a fire extinguisher as well. Then we sign the inspection and we date it. Remember, these are only the basics for this piece of equipment. Should you have any questions or concerns, always remember to contact your superintendent or area safety manager, and thank you for your time.